iFILM, London. iFILM, London.
Right, this is Kugan Cassius for iFILM London. With me I've got Frank Warren at the new Frank Warren Promotions headquarters here in Turnford. Happy New Year, Frank.
Happy New Year to you and also to all your viewers.
At iFILM London, thank you very much. Obviously we've come here to a press conference for Kevin Mitchell and Steve Allman. You've just announced that Steve Allman has pulled out for unknown reasons. Do you want to just talk a little bit about that?
Well, not really. He's just not shown up for it. He's pulled out last night, so that's gone by the wayside. The most important thing is that Kevin Mitchell's back. He's fighting on the 10th of February at York Hall, and we'll be naming an opponent within the next 48 hours. For me, I'm pleased that Kevin's back in. You know, he had a good year last year in beating John Murray, and he had a very bad year in basically a lot of problems outside the ring. That's now all behind him, and I'm hoping that 2012 he's going to show everybody that he's one of the best lightweights in the world. What
sort of mental state do you think Kevin Mitchell is in? Obviously, we're talking about another comeback fight. We were talking about a comeback fight for the John Murray fight after the Catsius fight. Now we're talking about another comeback fight. So what sort of state of mind do you think he's in?
You know, when people talk about comeback fights, for me a comeback is when somebody retires. You know, he never retired. He got beat in a fight, and then he came out again and had his next fight. For me, it's not a comeback fight. It's not so much a comeback for him. It's him he's now got to go out there and reinstate himself as to be one of the best guys out there, and that he can't afford to slip up again this year. If he does that, it'll all be over. He knows that better than anybody. He's in a great frame of mind. He's got a good team behind him now. He's got some, he's got his family are looking after him, and more importantly, he's got a guy in Bill Eyes from Raynham Steel who's put a lot of time and effort into making his life more stable, and I think that will reflect now in his performances in the ring.
A lot of our fighters last year went abroad, come home with nothing. What's got to change this year? Is it we have these fights here, or because a lot of decisions we weren't getting, i.e. Chisora and Helenas and various others?
Well, I think the Chisora one was just was probably the worst decision I've seen for a long time in boxing. It was outrageous. But looking at the other guys in the world title, and let's have it right, everybody knew it was a bad decision. The reason it was such a bad decision that Dereck's got a world title fight out of it. You know, everybody knew he won that fight. And he beat the guy who's ranked #1 in the world now, Helenas. So that puts Dereck in a great position. And now he's got a big opportunity, and he's going to be an underdog going into that fight, the same as he was against Helenas, against Klitschko, which will take place on the 18th of February in Hamburg. But a lot of the other guys, you know, they didn't go into the fights, in my opinion, as favourites. I never thought that Carl Froch would have the beating of a good boxer. I never have done. And I thought Carl Froch got very, very exposed and showed a lot of his limitations against Andre Ward. The Murray fight, brave guy, but at the end of the day, he was always going to be, you know, that was always the writing was on the wall with that one. You know, Amir Khan's fight, what was he doing in the other guy's backyard? Forget what the referee did. The referee warned him enough times for him to take notice of that, and he didn't take notice of it, and he paid the penalty. And at the end of the day, as I say, you know, I don't see the logic of where he was, what he was doing in Washington. And then you can look at other, you know, look at McCloskey against Amir Khan. Well, he never looked like he was ever going to be a winner, did he, in any shape or form? Whereas we focused on what we're good at doing, which is developing world champions. We've developed quite a few. We've got two now, the only two British world champions in Nathan Cleverly and in Ricky Burns, and I think we've got some more will come through this year. And my job is to keep them fighting, hopefully that they keep winning, so that when they are ready to take that big step, that they've got the wherewithal to do it, not just dumping them in the other guy's backyard that they get beat. And that is what's happened. That's called, you know, for me, is very naive and lack of experience with some people, some other promoters or managers, that they allow these things to happen.
Frank, is there an argument that after a fighter loses a big fight that there should be a comeback, like say a comeback fight, there should be a settling in fight before they go and fight for bigger honours? Because obviously John Murray lost a big fight to Kevin Mitchell last year. Dereck Chisora lost a British and Commonwealth fight to Tyson Fury. But their next fights were for titles. They've lost again Dereck Chisora's lost again, and now he's fighting for world title. So is there an argument that there should be a couple of fights in between these fights?
Well, Dereck Chisora, first of all, did have a fight after that one and won it up in Halifax.
Of course, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. Sorry.
And then he won the fight, according to me, according to the EBU, who ordered a rematch, according to everybody at ringside, according to the whole world who watched the fight, including the American broadcasters, Apex, who had their studio commentators, Freddie Roach, Thomas Hauser. One of them gave him the fight by 8 rounds. So, you know, you can't legislate for bad decisions. Well, I'm talking about real bad decisions. You can't legislate for that. It was a bad decision. The fact of the matter is that everybody knew he won the fight. And even Helenius knew he won the fight. And out of that, he's been accepted by American TV and by all the other TV companies as an opponent, as they see, a live opponent for Klitschko. So Dereck, you know, Dereck needs challenges. He's that type of fighter. You know, Dereck's no good having 8-rounders and 10-rounders. He needs to be focused. He needs to have a challenge in front of him. You know, last year he didn't take the fight seriously as far as his training was concerned against Tyson Fury. And I'm not taking anything away from Tyson Fury, who trained 100% for that fight and did what he had to do. But Dereck did not do himself justice in that fight. We know he's a better fighter than that, and he's proved to be a better fighter than that. So now he is where he is. John Murray, the thing is with John Murray is and I like John Murray, I think he's a true warrior. My big problem with John Murray is the way he fights, and I've told him time and time again, I've told his trainer, if they keep fighting the way they fight, which is basically walking forward, trying to outpunch whoever he fights, that game's gonna all end in tears, which it has done. He needed a plan B. He didn't show a plan B against Rios. Had he done that, I think he may have been in with a chance, and it was a chance to take. That was a money fight for him, and he went for that. But you got, of course, not everyone's going to be a winner, but the majority of the guys I'm involved with are winners, and the majority of the guys I'm involved with are quality guys who go on to do bigger and better things. You know, John Murray took his chance. We knew the guy was struggling at the weight, and had they decided, and it was their decision, to go ahead with a fight with a guy coming in overweight because they got paid extra money. Had they not done that, then maybe it would have been a different situation, and that was their choice. For me, I wouldn't have fought. If you didn't make the weight, I wouldn't have fought, because I think you had everything. You gained a bit of extra money, but at the end of the day, you don't. You know, you're fighting somebody who's at a more comfortable weight.
When are we likely to see Tony Bellew back in the ring?
Tony will be out. His fight's gone out to purse bids against McIntosh. Purse bids are next week. So whoever wins that purse bid will nominate the day he fights.
And is there a strong possibility that we could see Kevin Mitchell and Ricky Burns fight this year?
That's the plan. That's the plan. But they've both got to keep winning, and something we'd like to do in the summer, maybe at West Ham or a Celtic or one of the football stadiums up in Scotland.
All right, well, it promises to be a huge year for British boxing and world boxing in general, so we hope it all delivers, really, Frank.
It was a big year for us last year, and it'll be a big year for this year. I mean, we're very happy with what's happened in the last year. We've delivered world champions. We brought guys through, as we always do, and I look around at our competitors, and none of them have done the same thing. Can you give us a slight progress report of how Box Nation's going? Yeah, we're doing very well. I mean, the channel's doing very well. I think it's great for boxing. It's got a great program event starting on the 13th of January. Got some great fights coming up. Some good fighters, some of the best of British fighters. You're only going to see the 2 British world champions in action on that channel. And you know, the plan is from the 13th of January onwards is back to delivering 2 live shows per week.
All right, Frank. Well, thank you very much for your time. Happy New Year, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.
I'm Frank Warren. You're watching iFILM London.
iFILM London. iFILM London. iFILM.